Good evening and welcome to a new edition of Catholic Peekskill. I'm Father Vincent Druding, filling in as a temporary administrator at Assumption Church. Our blessed Father Higgins has gone down to the Bronx at Holy Cross. We wish him many blessings. Many people have been asking how's he doing, so I want to give a little update. Father Higgins is settled in. As we all know, Father Higgins is the same Father Higgins no matter where he goes. Joyful, filled with the life and the zeal for the gospel, loves souls, and he's settling in nicely down in Holy Cross in the Bronx and sends his regards and his blessings to all the people of Assumption Church and those watching this program. Tonight I'm so blessed to have with me Father Orfin Menezes, who's a Capuchin Franciscan from Goa, India. And he's been with us from June, and he's going to stay with us till August 17th. So we have this opportunity tonight to get to know Father Orfin. He's been a tremendous help to me and to Father Higgins this summer, and we want to know more about him, his life, and his work as a priest. Father Orfin, welcome to Catholic Peekskill.
Thank you.
So Father, as we like to do here on Catholic Peekskill, when there's a new priest visiting, is just to get to know him first. And so can you tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, your family, and your early part of your life?
Well, I'm from Goa, India. I was born in a small tiny village called St. Stephen. I did my elementary schooling there, and after which for my high school I went to the school in a little town, a little far from my place, some maybe 30 miles, and there I did my schooling till grade 10th, after which I did my grade 12th, and then I felt that the Lord was calling me, and I decided to join the Franciscans.
And many people come to the priesthood by different routes. What was it that you feel that sort of led you to finally give your yes to the Lord?
Initially, I was inspired by the life of St. Francis of Assisi, and I had also heard that he had started an order, but I did not know which it was. When I inquired, I came to know that the school where I was studying was run by the Franciscan Capuchins,
Okay.
and so I decided that I should join them.
Okay. So once you made that decision and you felt the call, where did you go for seminary?
As a minor seminary, it was in Goa, Navali, for 3 years, and then we have our religious formation in another state, Karnataka, where we do our pre-novitiate, novitiate, then 3 years of philosophical studies, after which we have 1 year of fraternity experience. We are sent to our fraternities to experience life as it is lived on day-to-day basis. And then I did my theological studies at Mysore in our Capuchin seminary.
Okay. And what year were you ordained, Father?
I was ordained on December 30th, 1998.
98. And
Yeah.
how old were you?
I was 28 at that time.
Okay. Now I want to pause there and take a step back, and I want to ask about your family. Can you share a little bit about your family that you come from and what it was like growing up in your own home?
At my family, we were 4 siblings. I was the third, and I have a brother who is younger to me, one brother who is elder to me, and a sister who is elder to me. All of them are married and settled, and I'm a priest.
Do you have nieces and nephews, Father?
Yes, I do have 5 altogether, 2 nephews and 3 nieces.
Okay. Your parents, what did they do, your father, for work, and what was it like growing up in the home together?
My mother was a homemaker. She was always at home with us to look after us kids. My father worked in a bar. He was a barman. He was also a part-time musician. He was also the choir master of our church. He worked as a choir master for more than 20 years. So that was how we were as a family.
I've had the blessing to go to Goa to visit, and some of our watchers may also be familiar with Goa. I know we have a sizable Goan community in the Hudson Valley where some of this will be broadcast. What part of Goa were you from? And
I'm from a taluka called Tiswadi, that is close to Old Goa.
okay.
In fact, the village I come from is walking distance from this Basilica of St. Francis Xavier.
Okay. Bom Jesus.
Yeah, Bon Jesus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you share for the audience listening who may not be familiar, you know, India is one of the largest countries in the world with a population of over 1 billion people. Can you share with them a little bit about how Christianity got to India and then particularly to Goa, and what the current context of the religious life is like in India?
Well, as some of you may know, India is a multi-religious, multicultural land, and that is no different in Goa. We have communities of different faiths. We have Christians, we have the Hindus, we have the Muslims, and there are also people who profess other religions. Christianity was there in Goa even before the Portuguese came, but I think a major thrust towards evangelization was given after the arrival of the Portuguese in Goa. And we have been Christians for generations. I'm not a first generation Christian. My father was a Christian, my father's father was a Christian, and even my great-grandfather was a Christian. So we can say the faith in Goa is quite ancient.
And it was, of course, St. Francis Xavier had a big influence on.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about St. Francis Xavier?
Yeah. You know, there is not much historical that I can say, but from the legends that go around, I can say that St. Francis, when he landed there, he proved to be a catalyst for the spread of the Christian faith. They say he went about, though he did not know the local language, he went about preaching and teaching the faith, expressing the good news by way of singing and primarily through children. He would gather the children around and spread it to them. So that was how it helped the Christian faith to spread.
And before St. Francis Xavier came, was it the 16th century?
Yeah.
Okay, and into Goa. Long before that, the Indian area was evangelized by St. Thomas, was it?
Well, as tradition has it, they say St. Thomas went to Kerala, which is a state down in the Indian peninsula. And so the faith was already there in that state. Even today we have some Catholics, Christians who call themselves St. Thomas Christians. So relying on tradition, we can say that Thomas was there, but I don't think there is any historical, whether there is historical evidence, I'm not aware.
Okay.
And whatever there is, sometimes it is disputed. So, but we can rely tradition, given the fact that Christians have been there for so long.
Now, with such a large country, can you give a little explanation of the current demographic situation of India in its totality, and what percentage constitute Christianity?
It may be surprising to you, though India is such a big country. We Christians, and I'm not talking of Catholics, Christians are not more than 3%.
Okay.
I think the other faith that is sizable is the Muslims. That is, I think it will be around 10%. The rest of them are predominantly, it's Hindus and people of other faiths. Predominantly it is Hindus.
And for much of our audience watching this program would have grown up in a relatively Judeo-Christian culture, where the great majority would be Christian or Judeo-Christian in terms of their ethical and philosophical and religious outlook on life. Can you give them an idea or understanding what it's like to grow up as a Christian in a society that's largely Hindu and with also some Muslim influence?
Yeah. While the situation in the whole of India is that of majority Hindu and minority Christians. The state where I come from, Goa, we have quite a sizable Christian population.
Mm-hmm.
So the influence of other religions, be it Muslims or even other religions, was not much felt. Also in Goa, there are pockets in the sense that some areas we have predominance of Christians, some areas it's Hindus. The area I come from was predominantly Christian, and hence I really did not have any adverse influence of other faiths.
And where did you go after you ordained? Can you take us through your journey a little bit as a priest?
After I was ordained in 1998, we have a big boarding at Mondegiri. I was a director there for 2 years. We have kids there who reside at our institution there, and they go to school. I was there for 2 years, after which I was transferred to another friary of ours where I was in charge of the students who would come and live with us for some time. We have this program called Come and See. Sometimes when they feel that they would like to discern whether the Lord is calling them, they come and stay with us. They see our life. So I was there for 3 years. And then after that, I was transferred to a place where those students who would like to show inclination to join religious life, particularly the Capuchins, are kept with us and they go for regular schooling, 11th and 12th grade. After that, I went to Rome for my studies. I did my licentiate in philosophy at Rome, and I returned to the province. There I worked as a bursar, provincial bursar, and the local community bursar.
For those who don't know what bursar is,
As a treasurer.
Treasurer, right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that was more or less how I spent the last 18 years of my priesthood.
Aha, okay. And now, so the Franciscan vocation, obviously, as we know, those who know the life of St. Francis, is to the poor. Can you share with us a little bit how the Capuchins serve the poor in India?
I speak for the Capuchins of Goa,
Goa.
where we serve. We have been working in Goa in 3 places predominantly. Mondegiri, we are at Naveli, and we have a friary also in a region called Kanakona. Now the places that are really old, or the places that we have been there for many years, are Mondegiri and Naveli. Naveli, for many years we have had this ministry of healing. One of our Capuchin friars, he is no longer alive, he is dead. He continued this ministry of giving medicine to sick people for more than 50 years. And that was his primary ministry of healing, treating people with various illnesses and disease. While he did charge some money from those who could, he did also free service, free medicine for those who could not afford. And in Giri, for more than 50 years, we have been running a school. We have also a boarding. Some time ago, there were more than 400, 500 students in the boarding. Right now, in the boarding, we have only up 75 students, but in the school, we have 1,500 kids.
And the boarding, for the listeners, are those students who come to live at
those
a
who
boarding house?
stay at the premises of the school, and they go to school. Okay.
Okay.
They don't return to their homes on daily basis.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what challenges have you experienced, trying to serve a multi-religious community at the boarding school?
Yeah. Well, the challenge is to get these kids understand that the primary values of most of the religions are the same. No religion teaches you hatred, violence. Every religion will think and teach you that you should do good to your neighbor, do good to others just as you would want them to do good to you. So it takes a little time for the kids to understand that while they are different, they are not necessarily against one another. Okay. So,
You know, something that some listeners may find surprising that I had a chance when I visited India, not just Goa but to Calcutta and Mumbai or Bombay, is that I went to St. Michael's Shrine, which is a shrine in Bombay, and they have the shrine. They have the novena to Our Lady of Perpetual Help, to which I know a lot of Indian Catholics are devoted, Perpetual Sukkar as they call her, and they would have novenas on Wednesdays. And in the shrine, 30,000 people may attend to the different services throughout one day. And in the evening, they instructed me that many of the people who come, thousands who come, are Hindu. And so what I learned in my trip there is that the Hindus, because they're open to having so many different gods, they also honor the Christian God, and many of them can also, though who are less radical from the north, but in the south, they tend to get along better with Christians. But they also have reverence. Sometimes the boys, when they're running by a tabernacle, would actually stop and bow. And can you share a little bit about what the Hindu relationship, let's say in the south of India, which I know can be different from some of the extremists in the north, with Christianity and Catholicism?
Yeah. In fact, when we train these kids, particularly in our boarding, we train them together. Okay, while we train them predominantly to say our Christian prayers, we don't discourage them from doing their prayers. But in common, what is taught is the Christian prayers. And it will surprise you to know that our non-Christian brethren, they sing the hymns of Mary, they know the Our Father, Hail Mary, better than our Christian kids. And at times, it is they who lead the rosary, non-Christians. So it's something nice. We are not trying to convert them. It's just that by being there with us, they have learnt it. And once they go home, they are back to their faith. But when they are with us, they do it so nicely. And Hindus, by and large, they have no problem with our way of worship. They have a particular way of worship, and we respect that too. So when they come to live together, there is no antagonism. They already know, they are accustomed. The Christian kids know that the Hindu kids worship in a particular way. The Hindus know that Christian worship in a particular way. And that respect and reverence for the place of worship, be it the chapel, be it when we pray, is there in all of them.
And my understanding is, most especially in the southern part of the country, there seems to be a better coexistence between the religions. But sometimes people watching the news in the United States might hear about what happens in the north, some of the extremist violence. Maybe you could just touch on that a little bit to help educate the audience what that's all about.
Yeah, maybe we also hear it, and for us, even back home, when we hear this, it's strange when there are these attacks are there. I wouldn't say that these attacks are not there. These are there, but I think this is mostly those people who make it their profession to create some trouble. But by and large, we are a peaceful people, and among the people, if not for these divisive elements, there is peaceful coexistence and mutual respect.
And in particular, one of my observations was a real sense of the divine and the supernatural. Even though they may not, those Hindus may not have a full understanding of Christ or acceptance, they recognize that as His presence, and the Christian worship as something supernatural. Would that?
Yes, as you just said, the Hindu brethren, they always believe that, a man can worship in a way different from them. And even among themselves, they have different gods, and each has a particular deity they are devoted to. And just like that, they acknowledge that Christians have a separate deity
Mm-hmm.
to whom they are devoted to, and they respect that.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've had the blessing opportunity to come to the United States on a number of occasions. Can you share with us and those listening where you've come when you visited, and where you stayed?
Whenever I have come to the United States, it was basically to help during the summers. This is my 4th time that I'm in the United States. Last 3 summers, I was at Port Chester, New York, a Church of Our Lady of Mercy, basically rendering pastoral help. Whenever the pastors there, they went on their vacations, I filled in for them.
Okay. And obviously this has been your first summer at Assumption here in Peekskill.
Yes.
How has your experience been this summer so far?
My experience here has been wonderful. The people have been very welcoming. My stay here is comfortable, and I have no complaints.
I noticed too from since your first time you arrived to the house, suddenly some of the going food started to show up in the kitchen.
Thanks to all those people out there, particularly from Goa. I mean, that's their love and concern. I appreciate that they had been, even without my telling. Honestly, I did not know that there were Goans here. Only after I got here, somebody told me, oh, you know, there are Goans here. Before I could know that they were there, food was coming to the rectory. And I think that shows their concern. Yeah. I would like to thank them, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we thank them too, and we're thankful to your presence. We've been blessed also with that. You know, I want to also ask if you've had any kind of particular verse from the Scripture that, or some passage from Jesus that you could share with us that had a particular influence on your life or that you're drawn to.
John 10:10. I have come that you may have life in abundance. Okay, to have life and have it in all its fullness.
You know, you share that also with St. John Paul II. He loved that verse as well. And can you share for you what that means, or what draws you to that, or what's the significance of that verse?
Well, it simply means that for me, wherever I am, I must make my life such that the others around me must benefit from it. I must contribute something positive to their life. Just like Christ sacrificed himself for us, the call of every priest and every religious is to give our life in service for the people, so that their life can be enriched. And whatever we can give through being priest and being religious, we give it to them.
You know, we know obviously St. Francis had an influence on your life. In addition to St. Francis, is there a saint or two whom you've particularly admired in your time as a religious?
In fact, since I'm a Franciscan, I would love Franciscan saints. One saint that really has my admiration is Saint Clare, and that's because she's also a Franciscan, same order. But I like her because leading a simple life within the 4 walls of the cloisters, she taught us great things, particularly that we can be faithful to Christ and serve Christ even within those 4 walls by prayer and service only to the community, where nobody notices you except God. So Saint Clare is one saint that I admire.
Wonderful. You know, I know for communities who immigrate to the United States, one of the challenges is how to participate in the life of the local culture and the local society without also losing your cultural roots. If you could share a piece of advice to the Goan community here, of course, of whom you're a member and whom you serve back home, what would you say to them to help preserve their cultural roots as they continue their time here in the United States?
One of the elementary aspects of culture is language. And if you would ask me what advice I have or what suggestion I have, for our community, Goan community, not to get itself alienated from their culture, I would suggest that they never forget their language. They use it at home so that they are in touch with it and they don't forget it.
Very good. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know there's going to be a Mass here on August 5th, this Saturday. The Goan community will celebrate St. Lawrence of Agassiz. I had the blessing of going to visit St. Lawrence, and this year you'll be the celebrant. We're grateful for that. And the Mass will be also partly celebrated in Konkani, not just the music, but now to have a father who knows the language, I'm sure is a great blessing for the community.
Yes,
we thank you for that.
And it's a pleasure to be celebrating a Mass in Konkani in the United States.
Yeah, you never know. You know, lastly, just a kind of a lighthearted question. I know when you first arrived, one of the lively discussions we had was about diet. We have just a little time, but do you have any dietary advice for those watching today?
Well, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a dietitian, but from what little I know, I think it's healthier to have a plant-based diet and to avoid, as far as possible, meats and oils.
Okay. Well, you know, you've managed to have a joyful nature to you, and you seem healthy for your age. And I know you still play soccer, despite you know, having a few years behind you. So you've got something to share with us, Father. I want to thank you for your time today. Most especially, I want to thank you for helping us, Father Higgins and myself, these last couple months. It's been a great blessing to have you, and you've brought laughter and joy and just a great fellowship and brotherhood to the house. So we thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
So we conclude another episode of Catholic Peekskill. We hope you'll stay tuned here each month as we continue to try to promote the gospel, especially here in Peekskill and beyond. Signing off now. May God bless you and bless your family. And we thank once again all those in the Goan community who have been a support to us and to Father Menezes these days.